Jakob Ingebrigtsen is going to do in the 1500. He has time to look behind him. 20 years of age, and he is on top of the world.
But coming down for a maiden national crown, Cornwall is the champion.
Algarouge has run his race, or has he? Has he got anything left? Algarouge trying to get there. Kipchoge, the junior's there. Algarouge is trying to get to the line. Kenya wins it. Kipchoge takes
Vivian Chariot's turn, and what a proud moment for her and the Kenyans. The first woman from her nation to take the 5,000 metre title. Vivian Chariot's in Dreamland.
on the outside. Ollie Hall of Australia comes. Jake Whiteman has just spent. It's going to be Chariot and Hall. Who's going to get it? It's going to be Australia.
Altitude training has always been a hot topic for middle distance and distance runners. Many of our best runners spend large chunks of the year at altitude, sucking in that thin air to stimulate the body into producing more erythropoietin, or EPO, and therefore more red blood cells, which of course carry oxygen around the body. We thought it would be cool to catch up with a man who has spent the last decade pioneering altitude training systems, mainly altitude tents and altitude rooms. Rico Rogers is a retired professional cyclist and first experienced altitude training whilst competing professionally. He is of course of the strong opinion that without it, the chances of true success at the elite level is limited. We hope you enjoy it. Before we jump into it, a quick word from the sponsors of this week's episode. Asics has just released the new Gel Nimbus 26. With cloud-like cushioning and soft grip, it delivers unmatched comfort. The new Gel Nimbus 26 shoe is Asics' most comfortable shoe yet. Now available via asics.com and specialty running stores. This episode is also brought to you by Fractel. Exciting news from the world of running apparel. Fractel, a Queensland-based startup founded by passionate runners, has just launched their equity crowdfunding campaign. With a mission to revolutionise sustainable performance apparel, they're inviting you to be part of their journey. Investment starts from just a few $100s, making it an incredible opportunity to support a known part of a brand that's making waves in the industry. Fractel isn't just about hats, they're about community, sustainability and innovation, having already made a significant impact with over 100,000 products sold worldwide. Don't miss out on this chance to invest in a company that's doubling down on making a difference. Check out the link in our show notes to express your interest and learn more about how you can join Fractel's exciting adventure. Expression of interest will close March 4, so be quick. I'm here with Rico Rogers. You're in New Zealand at the moment, mate. How are you? Welcome to Runners Tribe.
Thanks. I'm really good. You know, New Zealand's beautiful, good getaway. Do miss home, but you struggle through on a holiday, don't you?
Nice. Family holiday, is it?
Yeah. The kids are here, and my wife is here, and yeah, it's good. It's kind of good to have capped off last year, and just before the school starts back, which is, as most parents know about this time of the year, is kind of like you look forward to the beginning and you look forward to the end more so.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I've got some kids myself, and I am looking forward to school going back. I've got to be honest with you. Holidays is hard, hey, but mate, just for everyone listening, this is not a paid episode or anything like that. Okay, Rico, I've known Rico since, I don't know, man, it was like 2016 maybe. I consider him a mate, and it's just something that I thought, shit, it might be really interesting to get him on and talk about altitude training. Because it's a huge topic in endurance sports, and even all the way down to middle distance, 800 running and up, really. And I just thought there's going to be interesting discussion, and so it's not paid for, but I think there's going to be a lot of people getting some stuff out of it, mate. And I just thought we'd get off the table. Second of all, mate, is let's just quickly, your background. You used to be a professional cyclist back in the day. Can you just give everyone like a brief kind of rundown in that, so they know a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I suppose I started cycling late in life. I was actually a downhill mountain biker first, and then raced the worlds through that for a handful of times for New Zealand, and then gave up on that, started work, and then started riding because I actually couldn't see myself going back to university. So I was like, I'll just be a cyclist. So did about 6 months training, went to Belgium, eventually picked up a contract, won races in most parts of the world, and then eventually my team folded and I had children. And then from there, I kind of, when I was racing, I knew that everyone was doing EPO, and I wanted to have a similar, I suppose, performance gain. And then that's sort of the genesis of it. I sort of knew that you could do it with altitude tents, and then my wife was pretty keen on sleeping comfortably, which I was too, but like never really gave it much thought. It was kind of like you just hit a bigger hammer at that nail and she'll be right. You'll get better, get the gains. And then I just sort of started making more and more user-friendly systems, and then eventually tipped a pile of money into it and made a really great one. And that's sort of where we're at now. We're sort of selling to most of the top tier road cycling peloton, and then sort of making inroads into runners as well.
Nice, mate.
Yeah.
So I presume during your pro cycling days, like you were doing like a lot of high altitude training camps, and that kind of introduced you to altitude training. Is that right, or were you actually sleeping in tents back then?
Yeah, well, actually, I got invited to a one at Qinghai Lake in China, which was sort of averaged at about 3,200 meters. And then I'd learned and done a lot of research before then about altitude. And then with this race, it was a really high level, and I wanted to do well because I basically wanted to get a better contract for the following year. And so I did a mixture of training at altitude and sleeping at altitude, and build up for that. And then I won a stage, and I may have gotten second or third in another. And so I was kind of like, and this is against flat out dopers, some of them. And so I was like, yeah, okay, well, that really works. And so then from then on, I believe I got offered the tent that I was using to purchase. And so I did. And then the following year, I went to another team. But yeah, that's really my hard inroad.
So in the cycling world, if you don't dope, and if you don't do a shitload of altitude training, you probably have just absolute Buckley's chance of making it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some rare people that are just naturally talented, but I think it's becoming less and less common that you can do it without. And even if you're going to be pushing shit uphill, realistically. Yeah, it's possible, hugely talented people, but then they can go faster. And if you're not doing it, and it's not part of your program, I think it should be a part of the toolkit,
Yeah. And so a quick sum, I'm going to dive deep into some running specific stuff for everyone listening in a sec, and go into kind of what Aussies are doing at the moment and what runners around the world are doing. But quickly, just a quick summary of box altitude. So I know you have like tents that people sleep in, but you also can actually go to people's bedrooms and kind of install systems so that they're not sleeping in a tent, they're just sleeping in their own bedroom, and it just brings the level of nitrogen up and the level of oxygen down and creates kind of a semi-hypoxic environment. Is that a kind of brief, accurate summary, or how does it work?
Yeah. I mean, ours is a fairly elegant and simple solution, but yeah, it's essentially increasing the nitrogen level, decreasing the oxygen, obviously our system's flood it with nitrogen, and that the oxygen amount is really safe, even if you were breathing 100%. What we're pushing into the space. So that's one of the things that I really liked about altitude, is always safe. It doesn't, and also just to your earlier thing, I'm a fan of everyone's systems. If you can't afford our system, you should definitely use altitude, because that's going to get you the gains. It's just that obviously we've got a really great system, but yeah, like if you have to borrow one from a mate, or you have to share or whatever, you should certainly, if you've got a long-term plan of winning races or doing well, you should certainly look at this sort of thing.
Nice, man. I remember a few years back, you had a customer with a house in like Bright, Victoria, that you had connected to altitude, and I think 3 or 4 bedrooms there were connected to the system. And I sent a good mate of mine, James Nipper. him and a few of his degenerate mates from Canberra went up and lived there for 2 weeks, I think. And I know they had a lot of fun, but is that something that, you know, is a big thing these days, like going to athletes' houses and connecting their bedrooms up?
Yeah, yeah. I suppose athletes. I mean, athletes are a hard one, like especially runners, because they don't tend to invest too much in themselves, which this kind of is. Like even at the cheapest entry point, it's still a stack of money, and typically you're I suppose you're running most of the time, or you're training most of the time, so you're not really smashing the work and haven't got an abundance of money. So yeah, I see how it's a real investment, and yeah, but it's you kind of have to do it if you want to get to the pointy end.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah. Man, so I'll just get a quick rundown on what, you know, the typical thing in Australia is that our best runners, first of all, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
cycling. Sorry.
So you there, mate? All right, okay, just going through what you know, typical in Australia and around the world is that a lot of our best runners will kind of go to Falls Creek, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, up to that. You know, a lot will only go once, and the stints will be roughly from 2 weeks to, you know, some of the really top guys probably go for 4-week stints. And then a lot of our best will then spend some time like in St. Moritz or some of these other, you know, kind of places in North America or Europe during the year, kind of during the European season, you know what I mean? And kind of get another stint in Australia during Australia's winter. You know, I do know of a lot that have sleep in tents, but it's not something that they tend to talk about. Do you know what I mean? Like I could rattle off a dozen runners I know that have tried to sleep in tents or have on and off slept in tents that are very, very, very well-known runners. But you know, but I just wanted to touch on like let's assume the average runner who's trying to make the Olympics and really trying to have a crack at making it, they never sleep in a tent, but they go to Force Creek once a year for 4 weeks, right? Obviously that's better than nothing, but I just wanted to get your opinion on if they also, you know, is that helping them much? I think Force Creek's like 1,700 meters high. What's your opinion on that versus just sleeping in a tent?
Well, firstly, let's just put a cost value to going there for a month. I think you're going to smash probably at least, I don't know, probably 800 to 1,000 a week on accommodation.
Yeah.
Or you're going to smash a day getting there, day getting home, and that's probably going to cost you, let's say, 300 each way. It's like you're kind of 3/4 of the way there to an altitude system straight out of the gate with just one altitude training block. I just don't see the cost value in that. Yeah, 1,700 is enough to gain an adaptation, but in my opinion, you're better off staying at home, sleeping at whatever desired altitude you want. We recommend most people stay at sort of 2,500 meters, but load it or pair it with a training load so that you're not really, I suppose, digging too deep and really burning the candle at both ends, and then having a longer, more sustained approach to it. We sort of believe that if you can, I suppose, sleep at altitude leading into a big block of training, and then maintain that same altitude throughout the training by sleeping at altitude on those days that you're not, I suppose, burying yourself in fatigue, and then just sort of, I suppose, keeping the level really high, and then doing that rather than putting all your eggs in that basket. And then with Falls Creek, I'm guessing that your load will be right up. There's a higher chance that you'll get injuries. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to go there and train the house down. And so I just think that, I mean, for me, it was a real simple one because I was traveling virtually all year long. And so when I got home, there was zero chance I wanted to really go and do another altitude camp on top of early season racing, early season this. And it's like, it just, for me, it was not possible. I wanted to be at home and chill, and I felt like my training was better at home. And then on top of that, when I could really also, I suppose, say back to the team, listen, I've got a really good altitude system. I don't see the point in going away. I think it all sort of helped for me, and I think for cycling and for athletes in the future, let's say, for anyone if they've got a season-long plan, um, yeah, yeah, if you want to go to altitude, yeah, that's fine. But I think that using a system into off season, on season, injury, yeah, it's just all worthwhile, I
Yeah.
believe.
Gotcha, man. So this whole, like, I mean, I was just, just from reading stuff over the years, like the whole train low, live high, or train high, live high, or what the other bloody combinations of that is, I can't remember. But, like, in your kind of experience, should athletes be training inside these tents or inside these altitude rooms, or is it just a matter of spending X number of hours a night sleeping at that altitude? Is that the key, or is the key actually training at the altitude as well?
I'm a big proponent of sleeping at altitude because it just gets the job done so efficiently. You don't need to alter your training level at all. It's not like you have to have set intervals at altitude. I think for sprinters there can be some benefit in doing, let's say, short repeated sprints, and then it triggers this and that. And then also at training at altitude, you can actually do strength at altitude, and that will also increase your growth hormone uptake, or whether it makes more. And then there's actually injury recovery as well. So it can be shown for training at altitude to increase that. I mean, we deal with so many top tier athletes that it's like we really do push the sleeping at it, because you just don't need to change any routine or any training interval, and you just kind of supersize your ability to absorb oxygen, which is really at the heart of winning and doing well for running.
Right. And I guess when you're training at sea level, I mean, you probably can you run faster, get more out of your body, and kind of, get better sessions done, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have heard people are saying, "Oh, what about positive oxygen, more oxygen?" It's like, well, I think that has been looked into quite extensively, and nothing that I've seen come through has got any merit to support that. Yeah, I think it's you got to create stress to make something, got to
Yeah.
break something to make it better,
Yeah.
So it's like,
Do you know, like, for example, someone goes to Force Creek for 4 weeks, like very few Aussies go for 4 weeks. Let's say they go to Force Creek for 2 or 3 weeks. They get back, they get a bit of benefit from it. How quickly does that wear off? Like, if they're there in January and then Nationals is in late March, is it like, are they still getting benefit from that in late March, or is it, hey, I just wonder. I've always wondered that.
negligible. I don't know, like there's 120 days to your blood cycle, and placebo strong, but no, I wouldn't think so. I mean, it could. The thing is that if you come back and you're really pushing hard, yeah, you get a better training stimulus from that, and you might be able to hold that level. But the adaptation from altitude is probably tapering off to a certain extent at that point in time.
Gotcha. So the other scenario is that, like, let's say someone has a tent, they're sleeping in it whenever they're home. Let's say they live in Melbourne, like you do, and they're just sleeping in their tent, happy as anything. And then they're traveling for 4 months of the year, 5 months of the year. Like, I presume it's pretty hard to put this thing in, checked in luggage, and just cruise around the world with it. How does that work?
Yeah, that's pretty hard. Yeah.
I need two systems.
Well, they need two complete bedroom systems. Yeah. And fly me around at least business for it. Yeah, no, that's screwed. No. I would say for them, obviously do a big look when they're home, and then let's say if they're traveling around Europe, there's a good chance that they'll be passing by an altitude town. That's at the right level. So that might be one of those things, one of those times that you can get that big adaptation or more adaptation. But then also for something like the Paris Olympics, they should really have systems over there in the lead up to that. If they're going to be gunning for a medal spot, for sure, and I suspect that their sporting body will be on top of them for having access to that. I know that one of the codes. Well, we're talking to one of the codes about having some systems over there in lead up, and so yeah, it's one of those things that if you are gunning for that spot, all your competitors are going to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Mate, I presume with you that you know, like in many industries, like let's just take the running shoe industry, right? Like you get an athlete running in your shoes, you can plaster it everywhere, everyone gets excited, and you see photos on Instagram. But I'm assuming that with, you know, your kind of business, you can't really, like, people probably don't want anyone to know that they're sleeping in a tent, you know, and there's like, you kind of got to keep it secret, and it's like that whole word of mouth and viral Instagram stuff, like it's hard to achieve because, you know, some of the best athletes don't really want their competitors to know they're sleeping in them. Is that kind of true?
Yeah, and that's really frustrating from a marketing point of view. It's like, you know, like we're getting closer and closer to a really polished finish, but yet we don't seem to be getting any more social retweets. What do you call it? These re-X's doesn't work with it. You know, like that's what's been frustrating about ours. And it's like we haven't got the budget to really be pushing. And some of these guys have, or women, have got massive followings. And it's like, come on, give a dog a bone. We haven't got it. We have seen our tent in various pictures, you know, with like the partner of saying, you know, some sort of moan about sleeping at altitude without mentioning it, and it's like we know why you're moaning about that. But yeah, the systems are really comfortable as well. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, no, it's been really hard. I think we're getting closer. We're moving into sort of more, I suppose, people that want to live longer and be more efficient, and those people seem to be a bit more keen to talk about it. Although, yeah, it takes time, and because we're also quite a long way out from all of our other competitors, that what we're doing it is almost a hidden advantage still. But at some point in time, someone's going to let the cat out of the bag, I'm sure, and then I'll be like, oh, what's that? But
Yeah.
until then, we're just sitting tight.
Yeah. And give me an idea, I remember when we were having we caught up a while back, and we were, you know, there was some big names, right, in the world of professional cycling. And I'm not going to, obviously we're not going to say any names here, but you know, just give everyone an idea, like we're talking about some of the best cyclists in the world use your system, right?
Yeah, the majority of.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and we're not, like, the majority of them aren't in bedroom systems. They're all using tent-based systems.
Yeah.
Like this particular tent system is, yeah, it's winning a lot of races and world records globally, which, you know, we cheer from the sidelines, and it's really exciting for us. And then it's kind of like the dust settles and you get no more bump in sales, and you're kind of like, oh, boys, nose to the grindstone again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are really fans of the system working super well, and
Yeah.
people getting good results from it. That's really awesome to see.
There's a very, very famous marathon runner. I'm not going to say his name, mate, because it's spit. And I heard, you know, that he's using your system as well. And when these guys reach out, do they get you to sign a confidentiality thing or whatever, like, or is it just an unwritten rule that, you know, how does all that work?
No, they don't get us to sign a confidentiality thing. Typically, we take it upon ourselves to keep quiet. If they're not going to post about it, we're gonna keep it pretty hush hush. We tell friends because we're excited about it. But no, we've been pretty. And actually, one of the guy in Europe, Andrew, who used to own Rocket Espresso. I'm like, man, this is real cool, Andrew. Can we post about it? I was like, someone else's post. He's like, well, no.
Oh man, that's so annoying.
So-
Hey? Let's just quickly, got to keep this, wrap it up soon, but I want to talk about blood testing, mate. Like in terms of blood testing prior to a training camp or prior to using this system, then blood testing like right after. I know you've probably done this a lot. Can you just explain it, the basics of like, I presume hematocrit levels and hemoglobin mass, and that sort of stuff, and the evidence that you've seen yourself in terms of increases post training stimulus with altitude?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I always quote studies because normally when people talk to me about it, you can't really talk about what they're up to because that's not really agreed. But yeah, typically it's 4 to 5% hemoglobin mass, and that sort of translates to, I think it's 0.6 to 0.7 that it follows VO2 max. So it's pretty closely tied to that, and then you can see it. Like even with we have SpO2 on our app as well, and so you can actually see if you stay at a constant altitude, your SpO2 will come up after a while as well, and your heart rate will come down. So so all of our stuff sort of you can self-validate without blood tests. But yeah, I would, in an ideal world, I'd get people to do a maybe even 2 blood tests, and then get one during and post, and then just to compare and make sure you've got the right vitamins in your system. And the whole time, if you've got a really smart doctor or sports scientist that you're working in with, they're really helpful because they know the intricacies of what you're going through and that sort of thing. But we always refer straight to the data, the facts.
Nice. Hey, the other thing that I've just been curious about and never really asked anyone this, but if a huge race is coming up, right? There's like a massive, like let's say athlete X is training for the Boston Marathon, okay? And the Boston Marathon is say a week away, 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. When do you stop sleeping in the tent? Like, do you have a couple days off prior to it, or are you sleeping in the tent the night before?
Well, a lot of the studies seem to say would suggest that 7 days before is ideal. I personally think that 4 days is plenty as well. I suppose 7 days allows you plenty of opportunity to get back to a normalized sleep pattern and that sort of thing. Because you want to have really good rest leading into it, and you want to, I suppose, I would keep it as boring as possible. So even with that, there isn't a huge amount of data about tapering down your altitude, but I would suggest that that's one of those things that's going to mature as well. The more data that we have behind it, the more recommendations we'll be able to do. At the moment, we haven't got the data.
I was reading like that kind of 10 hours a day is ideal, but like, man, it's been a long time since I've slept 10 hours in any one night, right? Especially since having kids, right? Like, but getting 7 hours is pretty shit hot for me these days. Like, is the 10 hours something that you need to hit? What if there's people that sleep 7, 8, 9 hours? Is it just do you kind of just not worry about that? You just go to sleep, and whatever you sleep, and you just get benefits from it, or is it like a rule that you really need 10 hours?
No, I mean, it depends who you talk to. Like I've sort of always been a fan of having a routine that I suppose you get good rest, and good rest and good sleep hygiene enables you to, I suppose, push out to 9 hours, because you're probably actually not just sleeping 8 hours. You probably go to bed, you might watch a movie or read a book. Like that might take you 30 minutes. Not read a movie. Watch a movie, read a book. That might take you 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And then you might do your 8 hours of sleep or your 7.5 hours of sleep. You'll probably be doing more than what you think, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And like with your wearable, you'll probably see that it gives you a sleep time. Like mine this morning was 7 hours, 52 minutes.
You're into all this high tech. What you wear like a watch that measures all that shit. Hey,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm a geek.
and
I am.
you're like, I'm more old school, mate. I never put my watch on unless I'm going for a run. Then I just whack my my Garmin on and off I go. But yeah, so you need to really kind of learn the numbers and start crunching all that.
I think you can go by feel. I mean, it only validates what you already know, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So if you've got no gauge on it and you're just a wild card, listen to your body completely and you'll probably be fine. I think that athletes intrinsically just listen to our body the whole time, and then the data just validates. But yeah, I'm a geek. I wear my pocket protector on the inside, but yeah, no, I think the data's really cool. Like even heart rate variability is such an interesting tool to use, and heart rate and highs and lows, and I just think I'm a bit of a fan of it at the moment. I think it'll continue to.
And is it like, what are the critical values that it measures when you're asleep? Like, is it the SpO2 level that is is there an alarm set when it goes below like 87% or 88% or 86% or something like that? Or does that never really happen? Does it always?
No, typically, I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's got different hematocrit levels, hemoglobin mass, and also on top of that, people are hydrated differently, and so all of those things play a real part. I typically check for your blood oxygen content or SpO2, and then I also check out my heart rate as well. So if I've got a really high heart rate, and these altitude spaces do, I suppose, put a bit of a magnifying glass over that. So if you're getting anywhere near sick, your heart rate will spike a lot then as well. So I always sort of check on that as well, and I believe that a low heart rate value is a very good sign that you're well rested.
Yeah.
It's not always accurate. Last night, I mean, I feel pretty sleep deprived, and my heart rate got to 46 last night. It was fairly low for me. But yeah, you got to keep an eye on your body. But yeah, it's really just, I mean, it just causes you. These systems cause you stress, and then your body adapts by making more efficient cells.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And I guess like if you're asleep and let's say maybe you're a gung ho athlete, you just whack it up to as high as it will go, and you try and sleep, but then you're an hour, you actually do get to sleep, you're an hour into sleep, your heart rate starts spiking, your SpO2 starts dropping, you're probably going to wake up, right? Like, I'm just thinking of the risk.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's pretty hard to sleep through that.
Oh, you couldn't sleep through it. It would be so. We educate people so much about this.
Yeah.
We just say, just go up moderately. You'll get better stimulus response. You'll sleep well. You'll train well. But some people don't listen, which is really frustrating for us because we put so much of an effort into it. But then again, typically, one guy recently, same sort of thing. Oh, no, I'm good. I can sleep at whatever. My SpO2 is really high. Doesn't affect me at all. Oh yeah, how high is your heart rate? Oh mate, it's through the roof. It's just like, just sleep at a moderate level. Like, it's just not rocket science. Especially when you've got someone like me that's just like battering it in. Like, I must have said to this guy 5 or 6 times, and you're kind of whacking your head against the wall. But I suppose it's just part of it.
Oh, I can just imagine, man. There's so many, whatever, just testosterone filled runners just thinking that they can whack it straight up to the maximum, and they'll be sweet. But that's life. Hey Rico, how much are these units, before we finish up, how much are these units for everyone listening? Just a rough guide on the tent versus maybe a room. So I presume the room setup, it depends on how big your bloody room is. Like if you live in a cubicle, if you sleep in a cubicle, it's probably going to be cheaper setup than if you sleep in some mansion of a bedroom, right? But can you just give everyone a bit of a guideline?
I think we've actually just got the training cloud that we've had for just sort of training in. You can actually fit a single bed in there. I think that's 5,900. with GST, and then the Sleep Cloud Queen is 6.9, and then the King is 7.5, and then Badger start from sort of 10,000 and go up as high as you'd like, sort of up to sort of 30 odd thousand for the really, really big ones.
I mean, there's been a few Force Creek trips over the years that I've gone on that I've blown a couple K. So, I mean, they add up, Hey, lastly, mate, like if I told my wife that I wanted to get a tent, I should probably look at me and like I was, some sort of fucking deranged, like twit, and just tell and put me in my place. Like, how do you find it, like, with people that have a partner that wants to sleep, next to their partner and not in a separate room? Do they just, how does that go down?
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on. I find it funny when these partners, like, they've been with this person their whole life, and this is with professional athletes as well. Like, let's say, just trying to think of, multi-million euro a year contract their partner is, and they're saying to their wife, "Listen, honey, we've got to sleep in this altitude tent," and the partner's like, "I ain't doing that." It's like, I'm paid a stack load of money. Like, I was doing this before you were even on the scene, and this is what pays for your life. And like, I find that insane,
Oh, that happens a lot, does it? To me, that sounds
insane. Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, like if you're making a big bucks, I mean, shit, like that's just part of the job, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. But yeah, we typically arm the purchaser with all the information they would need to convince their significant other that it's a great idea for their health and well-being, and it is. Like it. Yeah, you live longer and all sorts of nice catchy phrases and But I mean, there's some reluctant people out there.
Yeah, I guess like too much oxygen isn't a good thing. Like a lot of the oldest people in the world live at altitude in Ethiopia and Nepal and all that sort of stuff. Like obviously it's a healthy thing for longevity.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like convincing people to drink a little bit more water than they would like. It's like it's so good for you and so beneficial, and most people just do it, but some people really drag their heels. It's like, you will feel better. It's very simple, but like we sort of don't spend too much energy on those sorts of people. We're kind of like, okay, good luck with that.
Hey, it's been a good chat. I've learned a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that have learned a lot as well. And thanks for your time. And it was good to catch up, mate.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Hopefully we'll come in coffee and beer again soon. Another dinner. It'll be cool.
Nice. Looking forward to it. Cheers, mate.
Anyway, take care.
On the outside, Ollie Hall of Australia comes. Jake Whiteman has just spent. It's going to be Chariot and Hall who's going to